Welcome everyone. Hi, Emma. I'm so glad you're here. It has been a while. I mean, I haven't talked to you in almost a month. And it has been so amazing meeting you, seeing you like just how you operate, the gifts that you have, the constant like changing and growing and all of that. You leave these little crumbs and impacts everywhere. Can you kind of share with us? Because I think a lot of people get a little confused about hypnotherapy, and maybe you could explain RTT as well and what kind of inspired you to do this.
Yeah, yeah. First of all, thank you. It's so good to be here and chat and connect. And I know I'm like, it's been a month. Let's do it. Let's get in. Um, yes, let me explain a bit about RTT and hypnotherapy before I get into how I got into it.
Yeah.
So there's different kinds of hypnotherapy, and some hypnotherapy is just about reprogramming the mind with new and better suggestions, because all hypnosis is about being suggestible, and so you're giving yourself better suggestions to get into alignment with what you want, the feelings you want to have, the beliefs, the behaviors. And hypnotherapy, hypnosis by itself is super powerful. It's how we reprogram the subconscious mind. Why RTT is so unique, and for those who don't know what RTT is, it stands for rapid transformational therapy. And it's really a hybrid therapy. So it goes beyond traditional hypnotherapy because it's a regression hypnotherapy. So it uses hypnosis, it uses elements of talk therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, uses elements of NLP to really bring you like fast, effective healing, because again, we're working with the subconscious mind, but we're regressing to find the root cause of your problem, often in just one session, 1 to 3 sessions, depending on what we're working on. Um, so it's hard to kind of call it one thing. So it draws upon hypnosis, talk therapy, NLP, but we're finding the root cause. And I always say to people, when we can find the root of the problem, that's how you actually experience liberation from it, right? I always say we have to dig out the weeds before we plant the new seeds. So
Yeah.
yeah, how I got into RTT and hypnotherapy, try and keep it short. It's interesting because I was in a whole different place in my life. I was an actor, a theater and stage performer, and people can look at it. How'd you go from that to hypnotherapy, RTT?
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, this to this. And I'm like, actually, it makes so much sense. If you know a little bit more about me, I have a long history of my own mental health issues since I was 12. I had been in some kind of therapy or healing modalities my whole life. I always knew that, just deep in my gut, that part of the reason I went through so many struggles was to overcome them and know that this was also part of my purpose and passion to help others work through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of toying for many, many years with like, okay, what do I want to do in wellness? Do I go back to school for psychology? But talk therapy had only gotten me so far. And I'm a very deep person. I want to go deep. I want to go into it. And I actually experienced, I was living in Canada, and I actually experienced RTT myself. And one of the things I struggled with mostly my whole life was chronic depression. And I never really understood the why of it. And so many therapists always wanted to know, well, this must have happened or this or that. And I was like,
Right.
no, why? Like, and it wasn't until RTT that I got to the root of it. And I always felt like, and a lot of my clients will say, oh my God, nothing big happened or traumatic happened, so I should be fine. And it's not the events that happen to us that affect us. It's our experience from them. It's the meaning we make about ourselves, our place in the world, that affects us. So
Yeah.
what I experienced when I was young, yes, of course that caused my depression. It might not for somebody else, but for me it did. And
Yeah.
so I could really understand myself, my past, my experience of the world. That's how I was able to move through it. So when I experienced RTT and hypnosis, I was like, oh my God, this is my big breakthrough. And I knew in my gut that this is a modality to help others.
Yeah.
Um, and so experienced it. I trained in it. It all happened very, very quickly. Then I got into opening my own business. And honestly, my life completely changed in a year or two, like completely moved countries, started traveling, opened a business. And it came from also doing this work, receiving RTT, receiving
Yeah.
hypnosis, to help actually rewire my subconscious, my body, my nervous system for this whole new chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. So you ended up, which is an amazing story, because I think that that's a true for a lot of people, right? Like they go, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
Well, the universe moves you in that in that flow of your ability to realize what you're here to do, right? And I love that that was your case too. When you decided to open your business, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I find that entrepreneurs in general typically feel very isolated and overwhelmed just by the challenges. Like they don't realize how many hats in today's modern world you have to juggle in order to make it successful. You don't just get to open. So
Hmm.
what were some of the challenges you faced during like the early, because I know you've been in business, but like so during the early days and what did you kind of do to overcome some of those?
Yeah, no, it's so true. Believe me, I experienced all of the isolation, all of the overwhelm, all of the how do I do this? I didn't go to business school. I got trained in what I do. And my biggest piece of advice is you don't have to do it alone. Like there are
Yeah.
resources out there. For me, I so just logistically wise of business license, how to register LLC, all those kinds of logistical things. I actually turned to the Washington Center for Women in Business, WCWB, who has so many free resources. And wherever you live, I go like research, go to your library, have your librarians like help. Like there's so many free resources to find out just the kind of logistical things of how to set stuff up, but also with libraries as well. I mean, there's so many different courses, like like even Canva, how to learn things there, how to like, like design things and your brand. And so much of it is about trial and error. Don't be afraid to try things out, try things on, make mistakes. Like it's not a mistake if you're learning and you're finding your voice. Um, so that's kind of more logistical things. Even like I didn't really have the resources to be like, I can hire this right now, but I'm like, but there's so many free resources out there. Um,
When you mentioned Canva and it made me think like, Canva obviously you can make flyers on, but a lot of us use it for social media. Like, do you think that when you're looking at all the different things that you have to do, what do you think is the most impact for your business for where you decided to show up? Because some people will come in and they'll be like, oh, I need to do like face to face networking in like a local Rotary or business group or club, some type of thing. Or, oh, all mine's on social media, or mine's speaking, mine's books, mine's a brick and mortar. Like, how did you figure that out?
hmm. I think before you start any of these steps is going internally and saying, what do I want? What do I want
Mm.
in business? What's my vision? I knew early on I wanted to be someone who's international. I knew that one of my goals,
You are.
exactly. Like that was one of my goals. And also because I have lived half my life in Canada and the US, so I was already kind of going back and forth and I had networks in both countries already. And so I knew also one of my desires in my personal life was to travel. So I'm like, how can I bring all of this together? So for me, what made more sense was to focus on online. So I think it starts with like really going in and saying, what do I want? What are my goals? And seeing how the personal and the professional are going to overlap.
Yeah.
And also not being too rigid with your decision. Like, yes, I knew I wanted to be online, but I still went and did networking stuff in person. I still did some in person collaborations. Like, and now because I balance kind of travel and being back in Washington and all of this, now that I've set all of it up, I get to do both. I get to go
Right.
back and do in person. I get to do online. So I think it's really getting clear with what you want and and where you see your business going.
That's a really good point. Yeah, because I think too, what I mean, I met you at an event and I was like, whoa, this lady showed up. And I was like, yes, what do you let's connect. Um, and I probably wouldn't have met you online just because of, the way I operate, oddly
Mhm.
enough, online. But it it's interesting because I think too like you brought up a really good point. You don't close all of the other doors. You have your focus where you go and you start and you keep going through that. But it's okay to check out these other ones. It doesn't mean you have to solely be a brick and mortar or solely be online and international. You can try these other ones out or sprinkle them through.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, I had a plan. And so many people, I had someone early on say to me, okay, what is your 5-year plan? And one of the reasons I'm an entrepreneur is because I've always gone to the beat of my own drum. I have always wanted to do things my way. I've always wanted freedom. And so with that, I said, yes, I have a, overall plan. Like I said, I knew I wanted to be international, be mostly online. But if I had just stuck to that plan and not been open to other things, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have gone to all these different
Yeah.
events in person. I wouldn't. So I would say, like, be open, like, have a plan, have an overall goal, but yeah, don't be so rigid with it. Like, be open to opportunities because you never know where the opportunities are going to come from. The universe is like trying to give them to you. And if you're closed off, you can't say yes
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's so true. And it's all that mindset, right? This
Mm,
is totally your wheelhouse. Like it's the mindset, and which is what a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, especially in the healing world, because it really hasn't, there's a paradigm shift that has happened in this industry, and not a lot of people have made the full shift.
mm,
And so they're coming up to challenges that they haven't experienced before. So when we're looking at like this mindset and this paradigm shift for all these entrepreneurs, can you tell us a little bit specifically like how hypnotherapy and RTT help with that paradigm shift so that they aren't getting burnt out, they aren't
mm.
getting overwhelmed, and they aren't getting stagnant and stale? Like how would you approach that?
Yeah, no, great question. I think often when we hear about mindset too, we think it's this force. And we so operate from this conscious, like, okay, I'm going to hustle, I'm going to force, I'm going to push through, willpower, power through. There's a place for that. And why my work is so effective, RTT hypnotherapy, is because we don't realize that we actually have to change the subconscious mindset.
Yeah.
Our subconscious controls our life. Our subconscious beliefs control our life. It controls 95 to 98% of who we are. We're all walking around thinking we're logically having control. It's our emotional self, our subconscious, that has control. And so until, especially with the entrepreneurs I work with and business leaders I work with, they're always in the role of like giving and showing up and hustle, that they don't even realize their fears, their blocks, their emotional state is actually the thing blocking them.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing with them. So I see what goes on behind the scenes, how we present ourselves to the world. I see these business leaders and they're professional and, this has this image. And I'm like, oh, no. I see the fears you have. I see the limiting beliefs you have. I see the abundance block, the fear of success, failure, burnout, overwhelm, stress, all of that. And until you decide to say, I'm going to prioritize healing myself and working on myself, that's actually the key to your business success, to things being
Yeah.
in flow and not force. Um, so I think it's the willingness to show up and say, okay, I'm ready to move through the discomfort, because the work I do, it's not comfortable. We're looking at your deeper pain, your deeper traumas, your deeper, subconscious limiting beliefs. Um, and not only from conditioning from our family, but conditioning from society, especially as entrepreneurs, business leaders, we're in this mindset of like, you always hustle, you grind, you do this and keep going. And again, that's how we operate from force. And in my experience, what I've learned is when I step back and get into flow and ground and alignment, things flow my way completely naturally, completely
Right.
naturally. And a lot of the
Do you,
leaders,
oh,
oh, no,
go ahead. Sorry.
I say a lot of the leaders, are like business leaders I work with, they're like, I just want to be in flow, or I want, you know, clients or this. When we work on this, they say, oh my God, these opportunities just started coming my way. I didn't even try. I wasn't doing anything because we started to release those shoulds, that conditioning, those traumas, those pain, those fears, and we got them into realignment with who they want to be
Yeah.
effortlessly, because hypnosis is effortless. So they're emitting that energy out, and then those opportunities can start flowing their way.
I think it's so important. You mentioned effortless,
Hmm.
and you also kind of mentioned some more subdual pieces, which makes me think like, how often are you getting people coming to you that they're just stale or stuck? They don't really know why. They don't necessarily know what they want either. They're just like, I need a breakthrough. I'm stuck somewhere. I can't articulate this, but I know I'm not moving in the
Hmm.
direction forward. And they might not even know what that is. How common is that?
Super common. And actually, it's well, it's funny. One of the questions I ask when you work with me is, what do you want? And it's amazing how that can be the hardest question for people to answer.
Oh,
What do
I love that.
And part of it, when they struggle with that is, well, let's see, let's start with asking more questions before always finding answers. I think in this world, we're always trying to get to answers, answers, answers. And sometimes it just starts with asking more questions, and so often it's just, well, how do I want to feel? Do I want to feel contracted? Do I want to feel expansive? It can be as simple as that.
Yeah,
People say, well, I want to be in flow, or I want to feel more at peace, or I want to feel more content, or I want to feel more passionate. And so often I ask certain questions about where certain passions lie, certain feelings that they want to call in, that we can just start with the feelings. And when we start with the feelings, the actual opportunities and little nuggets start to come their way. Because so often when we're in a feeling of contraction or feeling stuck, it's like things can't actually flow and we're in force. And when we're operating from force of the conscious mind, our subconscious can't actually come through. And so I'll often say, well, take a break, go for a
hmm
walk, go take a bath, go do something else, right? Because then the subconscious can go through. Or for a few days, experiment with, like, I'm just going to work on my feelings. I'm just going to work on, I want to feel peaceful for a day. And that's my only thing. When you feel peace, and then, oh, all of these ideas can come through. Oh, I just want to feel confident. How do I know when I'm confident? Okay, we're going to call in confidence into my body just for a day. Play around with, your only task is just to operate from a place of confidence. And when you start to embody that, then you're like, oh, wait, and this idea came, or this idea came, or this thing, when we can actually let go of all of the noise and make it simple. That's
right?
when things start flowing. Mm-hmm.
That is it's funny. That is so simple, but it does make sense because you're just naturally doing it and you can see yourself in it. And then this whole like flow of that energy, of those thoughts and creativity come through without those societal constraints that you've been programmed with. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
What do you think has been, because you know a lot, and I know you and I can like really geek out on the brain together. There's going to be a day where I have a feeling we will not sleep. We will just be up and be like, yeah. And then in the frontal cortex, there's this. And then when you tie it to string theory, it's like I could totally, I'm like, there is going to be a day. That's what and everyone around us is going to be like, good night. And we'll be like whiteboarding this out.
Yeah.
But like you've learned so much because in the structure we have in society, you made a big leap in careers,
Mm,
and also entrepreneurship,
mm,
personal growth, like all these things, and you've manifested the reality that you wanted to live, the
mm.
way you wanted to live it. And when I'm thinking about like all of Emma Heywood, what was the most profound breakthrough, biggest, whatever construct you want to put it in, lesson that really changed everything for you, that you might be able to share with like other entrepreneurs and healers and practitioners that are coming into their practices or wanting to evolve in their practices?
That's a really good question. And maybe it's funny. This is what's coming through right now. And maybe if you ask me another time, something different would come through. But as much as we can, I kind of contradicts what I said earlier. Yes, turn to help, get support, all of that. Yes. But I think the biggest lesson and value is knowing how powerful you are and that you are your greatest resource,
Yes.
your greatest, your greatest resource, greatest asset, and then the greatest barrier,
Yeah.
that so often it's us blocking us.
Yeah.
It's our addictions to certain emotional states, certain beliefs, certain identities, certain stories. You have to kind of call yourself out on your own bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do that as well early on and say, oh, I'm addicted to this state, this victimhood, this pressure. And when you can learn, and that's where we get, the help and the resources, the therapists, the coaches, the mentors. Yeah, that's great. But also you're the one waking up with yourself every day, going to bed with yourself every day.
Mm-hmm.
Learning that, like, your relationship with yourself, your mind, and maybe it's cheesy, I don't really care, but actually self-love and
Yeah.
self-belief
Yeah. Yeah.
is the core of everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Well, I don't think self-love and self-belief are cheesy. I think that people have, this is a pet peeve of mine. I'm pretty sure there'll be like a whole blog or video or something that I'm going to post on it because I go off on this at least once a week.
I love
Um,
it.
but the reality is I personally believe that it's what people have done with the word, the
Yes.
misconceptions, the misunderstandings. I have that across the board, right? People with all their labels of like, well, what are your modalities? Right. Well, that is another one full of labels that people don't understand. And I'm bad. Someone will say, like, I'm a mystic. And I'm like, I'm sure you are. I'm actually a mystic and I don't believe you because
Yeah.
most people don't know what that means. And so when
Yeah.
you're looking at like that self love,
Mm.
yeah, I get so annoyed because self care, self love, all that is not going to a spa. That's
No.
that's not the solution. It's things like what you do. It's digging in to
Mm-hmm.
that mental construct because you will never be happy if you have a hallmark self-love, which means like,
Exactly.
like the Hallmark holidays, like they are constantly flooding you with bye, 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 bye. So you can get that dopamine hit. And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I feel great. And then like 20 minutes later, you're like, it's worn off. And now I need another hit. That's the
Exactly.
same thing. Like you go to a spa because your skin is the biggest organ in your body and it needs love and attention because your muscles need, like all these different things, like is why you go to the spa. You don't do it because all of a sudden that's going to be your self care and self love. If you really want to do self care and self love, you go see someone like you who's like,
Exactly.
no, we need to love ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the actual core of it. And in our noisy society, sorry, see soapbox. In our noisy society, we do not get rewarded, get taught, or take
Mm-hmm.
the time to learn and perform things that are self love. Self love for me, back there is a whole nother room. And I sit on that couch with those blinds pulled, the curtains pulled, no lights, nothing. And I sit there. That's it. I'm not meditating. I'm not praying. I sit there.
Mm.
And that is like, I love my life,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it's different for everyone and they have to go find it, not go buy it. Okay, I'm done.
Exactly.
I'm off my
No,
soapbox.
I appreciate you and everything so much because I agree. It's my pet peeve too when I say, go to the spa, go get your nails done. That's self-love. No, no. And I, in the work I do and the clients I've been seeing recently, there's such a fear in going in and getting honest with self, getting intimate with self because there's pain there. And I get it. There's pain, there's trauma, there's fears. And the only way to actually move through them is to meet yourself.
Yes,
That's, you
yes,
know, and I see these people or business leaders, entrepreneurs who want to, have the success, have the money, have all this outward stuff. And if you don't develop your sense of self, your love, your self-worth is the key to everything.
yeah,
Nothing outside is going to give you that experience if you don't have it. And also I say to people, everything on the outside can go. The money, the success, the partner, the whatever, it can go. And then what are you left with? You.
yeah,
If you're outsourcing all these things, you're giving your power away. But when you know
right.
who you are and your worth, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Yeah, exactly. So refreshing. This is all the
I
reasons why I love you. Uh,
I know. We'll go on our
so
soapbox.
right, right. So for all the people who are listening, that are like, huh, how do I get a hold of Emma? I need to have that conversation and decide if this is the right path for me to, have the breakthroughs. Even if you're not a corporate executive or an entrepreneur, this is, I just in life, right? Like you were talking about like burnout. There's
Mhm.
there's a whole thing I'm doing right now on burnout and my burnout programs, and I changed all of them. Coming from like this physics perspective, which is just like as soon as I collected all my research, I was like, oh my gosh. So it's, like how do people get in touch with you, and like what does that kind of look like for them?
Mhm. No, thank you for asking. So, a few ways. One, you can go to my website or my social media. My website is emmaheywoodhypnosis.com. Heywood is Hey. It's like, hey. People, like, it's like,
Hey
hey,
girl, hey.
hey, girl. So, emmaheywoodhypnosis.com. If you want to learn more about one-on-one work, because I work with a wide range of people, business, athletes, everyday person, like RTT, hypnotherapy is for everybody. Um, I have a free 30-minute connection call where we can just chat to see what you're specifically going through, working through your blocks to make sure we're a good fit. If you are curious about hypnosis but not ready to do one-on-one regression, the deep work, but just want to experience the shifts, I also make both personal and general hypnosis recordings. So when you talk about burnout, nothing changes your emotional state faster than hypnosis. It is immediately changing your feelings, your emotional state, your energy. I also just work. So I have many different recordings, but one of my most popular is just de-stress and relaxation.
Hmm.
Clients reach out who they were traveling and really stressed. They listened to it. One got over a chronic illness and said this was the thing that helped them get through this. So just instantly regulating your nervous system, calming your whole body, mind, being, state. Hypnosis is really powerful for that. So I have some that I sell, and I also have a free, if you want to just try out my work, get a taste for free. I have a free abundance activation hypnosis recording that you can also find on my website or my social media at Emma Heywood Hypnosis.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am so grateful you were here today. I love everything you're saying. I'm like, yes, preach it, preach it. So it was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I love these conversations. I love them. I love them.